Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Agree to Disagree. Today, I'm your host, Jack Casello. With me, as always, is Dean Gutic, Noah Schwartz, and Aidan Shard. We've got a great show for you lined up today. We're going to be talking some conference championship results and reactions. We're also going to talk about the Baseball Hall of Fame and nobody getting in. But first, before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and check us out on Spotify. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Fantastic. I'm finally back in Ithaca.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes
pretty good.
That makes 3 out of 4. Dean for didn't come back, but it's all right. We're trying a little different setup as we were going to get comfortable. So today, last week, Noah and I were together on this couch, but Noah's in the other room tonight. We're just going to see what works better. So bear with us. So let's get started. We'll start with the conference championship games this past weekend. So one of the games very exciting. Well, no, that's not incorrect. Both games were pretty exciting. We'll start with the NFC first, Packers versus Buccaneers. I'm sure we're all a little unhappy that Tom Brady is going back to the Super Bowl once again. I'm going to let Noah start with this one because I know he was absolutely furious this weekend. So Noah, I'm going to let you take this. I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to talk about in terms of what happened on Sunday. But I think the best place to start is what Aaron Rodgers didn't do. And I love Rodgers. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And I'm not going to fully put this game on him, but they were bad in the red zone. And if he would have made the 2 touchdowns on the 2 drives they had and they would have scored both times, the game's a rout. They win by probably 10 points or more. They didn't make the first touchdown. They couldn't find Devontae Adams, and it didn't end up working. And then obviously the second time, Rodgers had a chance to run the ball in, didn't. Then LaFleur calls the field goal. Awful decision. Made no sense when he did it.
Still don't get that one.
Still don't understand it. They kick the field goal. They never get the ball back, and that's it. If they score touchdowns there, it's a different result. But the calls in this game were awful.
Oh.
And you can't describe this game. And this is I got to really blame the national media for this. I did not hear any of the daily shows on Monday on any of the networks talk enough about this. There were a few plays in the first half, especially on the interception that Rodgers threw, where there were clear defensive holding calls on Tampa, and they were not called. And then, of course, on the final drive, Brady throws it over the head of the receiver, and 10 minutes after the ball lands on the ground, they throw a flag, and it's pass interference. You can't let guys be so physical with receivers all game until the final 2 minutes, and then you throw a flag.
Especially
when you horrible call. It's part of the reason why Green Bay lost. They would have got the ball back. Rodgers has a chance to win the game. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they didn't even get a chance. And that's what's completely unfair about what happened on Sunday.
There was also that call, the drive right before, a couple drives before, or a no call. That was basically the same exact play as the one that went over whoever's head it was on the Bucs, where Devontae Adams was being very clearly held.
No, this was all day. This was an all-day thing. They were grabbing receivers and being physical. Yeah.
And part of me is laughing. I tweeted about it a couple times because, it's finally good to see Packers fans crying about, the refs are like making bad calls in favor of the other team, which is what the refs do every single time the Packers play. They have won so many games over the past few years based off of terrible calls against the other team. And now they're getting a taste of their own medicine. So I want to be happy because I hate the Packers. But of course, this is the one time that I actually wanted the Packers to win a game. The one time I'm rooting for Aaron Rodgers to win. And of course, it's the time the NFL decides to be pretty clearly biased, if you ask me, about the calls. And the one time the Packers play like garbage on offense. And you can't even forget, they had 3 consecutive interceptions, wasn't it? Or 2 consecutive interceptions that led to 0 points.
Yep.
Or 3 points, maybe. They
back-to-back 3 and outs. They didn't even get the first down in either of those possessions.
Yeah. So you can't. The defense, the secondary played pretty well. Tom Brady didn't look too great. He had a couple of nice deep throws, but it was mostly because his guys were getting open. And outside of that, the Packers won this game by a long shot. If this game was called fairly and Aaron Rodgers made good decisions and Matt LaFleur wasn't like a coward in the red zone, the Packers, like you said, they win by 50.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I'm not going to get, the Packers lost for many reasons. I'm not going to say it was mainly because of the refs. Obviously, that was a bad call, but you can't say that because especially when the Packers, they had plenty of chances. They couldn't execute in the red zone. They got 3 turnovers, which they only turned into 6 points. You're not going to win that way. And I think the biggest factor, one of the biggest things, and I want to know your opinions on this. Do you guys think their defensive coordinator should be fired? How do you right before the half? How do you let that happen? That deep shot to Scotty Miller that completely changed the game. You would have been going in 14. It would have been 14-10 instead of 21-10. That would have been a big difference.
It did change the game, but you also have to consider 6 seconds left. Any coach in their right mind is going to be kicking the field goal there. Even against Tom Brady, the odds that play with no timeouts, the odds that play goes south are astronomical. If Scotty Miller comes up a yard short of the end zone, it's no points for them. The smart move there is to go for the field goal. So I can't exactly blame the Packers for not expecting that, because I wouldn't have seen it coming. Same thing with the Browns the week before against the Chiefs. That was an easy play to stop on the that last 4th down, but you weren't expecting it.
No, you're right, Aidan. And I was expecting, like you said, the field goal. I was actually expecting Brady to come out, try and get maybe a 5 to 10 yard, just a little short out route, get out of bounds with 1 second left, kick a field goal. They obviously didn't end up doing that. They went for the deep shot. I didn't see that coming either. So you hit the nail right on the head there. But once you see the receiver starting to go by you, either foul him or just do something to make sure that guy doesn't run right past you and score a touchdown, because that's inexcusable. If you're going to let the guy beat you, okay, but make sure you're back in the play. Make sure you commit a foul. Make sure you do something to ensure that they don't get 7 points there. And that's what happened, and it cost the Packers the game.
I agree. Especially from Kevin King, who's had an awful game throughout that whole game.
Yeah, totally.
But, it goes both ways, this game. On one side, you look at it as 2 turnovers, but if you can't capitalize on either or, that's on you. In this league, you got to capitalize on your opportunities when it's given. The Green Bay Packers defense created 3 turnovers? You have to score. And the fact that you can't score on either of them, that's on you. However, the officiating was really inconsistent this game. Lazard got held before the half. Another holding happened. And then as Mike Evans vouches for a flag after Kevin King, although it was a good call at the end, I'm not going to argue it was a clear hold.
But not in that situation. You can't call it after you've been calling it the whole game.
You can't wait for the play to finish and everybody to start complaining and then throw the flag. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. And after they vouch for the flag, they get the flag, but it doesn't make sense. Now you throw it at this crucial time after not calling it all game, after letting them play on. It goes both ways, but it really stinks to see the Packers lose. I did not want to see Tom Brady in another Super Bowl. I'm sure you guys definitely didn't want to see that happen. And unfortunately, it happened.
Yeah, totally. And I 100% agree with you, Dean. It's they were letting the guys play all game. If you're going to let them play all game, then you got to stick with that the entire way. You can't just do it at that moment. So I didn't agree with that call. Also, for me, it didn't. Well, obviously when live action, it didn't even look like that ball was catchable. But that's just my opinion on it. But otherwise, that's about it. Now, do you guys think Aaron Rodgers, he's made some interesting comments. Do you guys think he's going to want out of Green Bay? And should he want out of Green Bay?
I could definitely see it. I mean, Green Bay has done nothing but fail Aaron Rodgers. You guys know how much I hate Aaron Rodgers. I've made it very clear.
Yes.
But he is a fantastic player. He's a top 10 best quarterback to ever play. But the Packers have never really tried with him. They've given him some good receivers, and that's about it. They haven't given him a great coach. Matt LaFleur has had his moments, but he's also, in this game, just completely shut down. And this offseason in the draft, when they could have taken a handful of elite rookie receivers, they go for a quarterback.
Maybe then that 2-point conversion is converted instead of dropped.
Yeah, seriously, Equanimeous St. Brown should not be in the game. I'm sorry, that guy is not an NFL receiver.
And sure, it lit a fire under Rodgers, and he did great with just Devontae, but that is not sustainable. Aaron Rodgers, if he knows what's best for him. He is going to go to a team next year that either has a core that just needs a quarterback, or a team that is going to build around him for the next 2-3 seasons before he can retire.
Yeah. I agree with you, Aidan. But here's the thing. Even if he stays at Green Bay, maybe you disagree with this. I know you hate Aaron Rodgers. Well, or at least the Packers. I think the Packers reached their peak. I'm not saying like they're not going to go back to the Super Bowl. I feel like this was their peak. They've had so many chances. They lost to the Niners last year. They lost to the Bucs this year. Aaron Rodgers may go. The future for this team is uncertain. And of course, you know, maybe if you didn't draft a quarterback in the first round, even though I was a fan of him heading into the NFL, I will admit that
but Dean, he's not even active on game days.
No,
he's the third string. What the heck is that?
I know. Hey, man, let me just complete my sentence.
Anyway, I'm just saying, it's unbelievable. The guy doesn't even.
I said I liked him heading into the NFL, and I was a Jordan Love fan. However, they should have drafted a receiver. And at that time in the mock draft, I was vouching for them to get a guy like T. Higgins or Denzel Mims, who I think would have been spectacular for
both of whom have proven to be late first round talent.
Yeah. Mims could have been very risky because he was obviously a Jet this year. He was injured for a lot of the season, so it also could have been very costly at the same time. But obviously they should have drafted him. I'm not going to say that they shouldn't have.
The future in Green Bay is uncertain.
Yeah, the future in Green Bay is going to be very interesting to see where they go from here. So, Aidan, now I want to ask this, Aidan, if Aaron Rodgers, I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
If they want to
for two reasons. One, because I would hate that.
Yeah.
If Rodgers came to the Saints, God, I would have to root for Aaron Rodgers on Sundays. I would rather vomit. God, that would be awful.
Oh God.
Wow. All right.
But two, because the Saints simply don't have the cap space right now. If Aaron Rodgers is going somewhere, he's going somewhere where he can get paid a lot of money. The Saints are going to be $100 million over the cap. So even with Breeze most likely retiring and being able to restructure a couple contracts and let go of some veterans, there's not really a realistic way that this current roster is going to be below 50 million over the cap. So they're just going to have to basically do a hard reset.
Yeah, they're going to have to you think it's like time to rebuild, tear it all down?
I think especially if Breeze retires, which he hasn't technically committed to yet, I think he will. It's getting to the time to rebuild. Keep Kamara up, keep Cam Jordan, maybe even trade Michael Thomas, get a couple first round picks out of him because he's got a lot of cap space dedicated to him right now. And go for either a rookie quarterback or stick with Jameis Winston or do something, but not Aaron Rodgers, please.
Oh, you're off the Taysom train? I didn't realize that.
I still think Taysom Hill could be a great starting quarterback, but he is simply more valuable as that utility man.
Thank you.
But he is a fantastic passer, and I will stick with that argument.
Yeah. All right. Before we move over to the AFC Championship game, it's just one more thing I want to go over because I want to get your guys' opinions on this. So obviously we just talked about Aaron Rodgers. I want to switch over to Tom Brady just for a quick second. In the first half, Tom Brady, he played absolutely exceptional. I believe it was 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. The second half, they didn't do that much, but he threw 1 touchdown in the second half off that Aaron Jones fumble, right? He threw that one to Cameron Brate.
Yeah.
In total, 3 touchdown performance. And in the fourth quarter, he did what he had to do in order to get him there. But who do you guys give more credit for this Bucs win? Tom Brady for the way he played, or definitely the defense?
Defense.
The defense.
Yeah.
Especially Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett, I think, was probably, and JPP were definitely Miami.
Being able to get through that offensive line that's been one of the best all season is impressive. Like knocking Aaron Jones out of the game, not impressive. Impressive is the wrong word, but they dealt with 3 very, very good running backs.
Yeah.
And they had 2 backup safeties, so credit to the secondary also.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny. Todd Bowles can do all this. Yeah, he can do it for us. All right. Anyway,
he's a solid coach.
Yes.
Just not great.
Listen, he's better as a coordinator than he is as a coach.
Yes, I agree with that. All right. Moving on to the AFC Championship game. It was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Dean's Buffalo Bills. This game started off very well for Buffalo, but unfortunately it didn't last. As we all know, you got to keep your foot on the gas, and no lead is ever safe against Patrick Mahomes, who had questions coming into this week of whether he's going to play. Obviously, he played, and the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl once again. So, Dean, you're the Bills fan. I'm going to let you start and get it out. So I'm going to give it to you.
Before I go off on this game, I just wanted to say it's been an incredible year being a Bills fan. This is the most fun I've had being a Bills fan in a long time. Listen, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Even it's the way they played that kind of pissed me off, especially going for 2 field goals, which I understand before the half. If you screw up going for it, you get no points. You put KC in a comfortable position, but against the Chiefs, you got to be ballsy. You got to go for it. You got to convert. You cannot be conservative. And the Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, all these guys learned that the hard way. I can't really blame the defense, even though they weren't good at all. When you're playing the Chiefs, who's one of the greatest offenses, you got to win a shootout. It's not about stopping them. It's winning the shootout. And Buffalo severely lost the shootout. But outside the game, it's been a phenomenal year being a Bills fan. Seeing them go, I never thought that they'd get 13 wins, go into the AFC Conference Championship game, and have an MVP caliber quarterback. They lost, which stinks, but I'm really proud of this team. This is a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely, Dean. You're 100% right on that. Credit to the Bills. Absolutely. Credit to Josh Allen. I did not see this coming. I know you guys all didn't see it coming either. But this is about Kansas City. This is the greatest offense in the history of football. I don't even think there's a question. They scored effortlessly all day against Buffalo's defense, and they didn't even have their number 2 wide receiver in Sammy Watkins and number 2 running back who's been starting for the last couple of weeks without Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. So they didn't have 2 other starting weapons, 2 of their better weapons, and they didn't have their starting right tackle in Mitchell Schwartz, and then lost Eric Fisher, unfortunately, and he's going to be out for the Super Bowl most likely also. So this is about Patrick Mahomes. This is about Andy Reid. This is about Tyreek and Travis. They're unguardable. There's nothing you can do. And so unless you score 40 or 45 or 50, there's no way to beat them. And people have been talking about this all week, and I want to echo that sentiment. They go on NBA-style runs. What was it the other day? 38-16 after it was 9-0? 38-6, and they went. Remember last year against Houston? I think it was 51 or 41 points in a row in that playoff game. They're like a basketball team. They go on these runs, and they're just unstoppable. And the only thing you can do is to maybe create a turnover or do something and get really lucky. But if you want to make this team punt, they're not punting. So you've got to find other ways to win.
I agree. That's why I said, look at, even though it was a fluke loss, look at the game against the Raiders. Even the Raiders had to score 40 to win that game. It's not even about stopping the Chiefs. It's winning the shootout.
Yep. Yeah. It's to beat the Chiefs. There are 2 ways to beat the Chiefs. It's 1, if you can, stop them. But 2, if you can't stop them, control the clock. Because and the Bills unfortunately could not do that just because their running game is not the strongest. I think if the Bills want to compete against the Chiefs in the future, getting a good run game is going to be the key. Because if you can, especially against the Chiefs, didn't really have a great run game, especially this year. If you really can control the clock, slow down the game, and keep that offense off the field as long as possible, you can beat the Chiefs, but not if you're settling for 3 points every drive.
Yeah.
And their defense, too, guys. That defense, I know we talk about it like it's a joke. Kansas City has playmakers on that defense. I mean, Chris Jones is awesome. We know how good Matthew is. You got Frank Clark to rush the passer. And they've got other guys all over the field. Daniel Sorensen, every time I look up, he's making a play. L'Jarius Sneed, every time I look up, he's making a play. So they have guys who not only do they fit the scheme well, but they make explosive plays, and they ensure that Mahomes has the ball for as long as he possibly can, which only allows them to score more points. That's how they're so great. The defense they don't have the talent necessarily, but they make the plays when they have to, and it allows the offense to just keep firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to agree with a lot of what you guys said. I'll start with what Dean said first. I 100% agree with you. That's one thing, like Dean, you can certainly say. Obviously, you guys didn't get where you wanted to go, but it was a great season, a fun season. That's something like I haven't been able to experience in a long time. I don't even want like this team to be a Super Bowl contender. I just want a season to be fun. Like every Jet season is just agonizing to watch. But like you guys had a great season. You great young team. it's looking like Brian Dable is going to be sticking around for another year. So Josh Allen should continue to get better with his guy. Stephon Diggs should be back. Maybe they get a running back for the draft or free agency. They can start to run the ball a little better. The Bills will be back. So I can count on that. But I'm also going to agree with Noah said, it's all about Kansas City. I've been saying this to Noah. I've been preaching this. I said this at the beginning of the year. You guys all laughed at me, and I still think it. Tyreek Hill is the best receiver. You cannot cover him. You cover it if you play off him, he just takes it underneath. You try and play him tight, he just goes right by you. You cannot cover him. Travis Kelce, I don't understand. I was like, when Noah and I were watching the game, I couldn't even begin to say, I don't understand how Travis Kelce just gets so open on every single play. It's just incredible.
Wide open.
It's just incredible. I don't understand how he gets that open. And then Pat Mahomes is just something special. And got to give their defense credit, and you got to give their defensive coordinator credit. I thought when they hired him, it was a mistake. I thought they should have gone with Rex Ryan, but he's done great, and he's been working with what he's got, and they've done well, and they're going back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I also just want to, the Super Bowl matchup, one of the stupidest things I've heard today is Scotty Miller try to claim that he's faster.
Oh my God.
Hill. So what do you guys think about
shut
that?
up.
Just stop it.
Yeah, don't.
Put it while you're at it.
Also, I saw
That's a ridiculous comment.
I saw a post the other day.
So funny.
I saw this post the other day. It's kind of funny. Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown are finally in the Super Bowl. The Killer Bees, 2 out of 3 of them finally made it. So good for them. We're not going to go into Super Bowl predictions. We're going to save that for next week. So unless anybody else has anything else to add, I think we're ready to move on. Okay, let's move on. So now we're going to talk. We're going to talk some baseball as the results to who was going to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame recently came out, and very surprising. Nobody in 2021. No new inductees. I think Noah told me Derek Jeter's ceremony is going to be this year. Is that right? I believe that. Yes. So
the ceremony from last year got postponed to this year.
2020 inductees, but there will be no officially there'll be no new members being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And it's the first time since 1960 that no new members got inducted in, because the past 2 times it's happened, 2013 and I think 96, they did have veterans get in. Like the Veterans Committee got some people in, but not this year. They didn't do a vote.
So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's ridiculous how nobody gets in?
It's a joke.
Yeah, all right. No, I'll let Noah start.
The Baseball Hall of Fame, and I've said this to Jack yesterday, I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I think 3 times in my life, maybe twice, but multiple times for sure. And it's one of the coolest places you could possibly visit. Cooperstown is an amazing little town. The Hall of Fame is an amazing place to go visit just to see what's in there and all in the museum and the place where all the plaques are. It's awesome. I love going there. It's become a joke. You can't keep this process going. You can't have 400 and something voters and half of them don't follow the game in the modern sense. You can't continue to have debates over whether steroid guys can be in the Hall of Fame if their records count. If Barry Bonds is the home run king, you can't keep him out of the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So look, I would be a steroid voter if I was voting. I get the whole debate there, but you need to make a choice. Baseball needs to make a choice, one side or the other. If you're going to let steroid guys have their records and keep their numbers and make it all legit, they should be considered and definitely get into the Hall of Fame. And then the Kurt Schilling argument, which we'll definitely get into more, but personal, and I understand people say the opposite. Personally, it's not, for me, it's not the Hall of Politics. It's not the Hall of Political Affiliation. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I'm not really taking the whole character factor into it. I understand some people do, but I would have been a Schilling voter. I think he deserves it. He is one of the best pitchers in recent history, one of the great postseason performers of all time. I understand he has crazy opinions and whatnot. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and it's a shame that he's now taking himself off the ballot because people don't see his value on the field. So that's just how I view it. But Baseball Hall of Fame has become a joke. I love going there, but this process that we have and that we've been using, it's outdated, it doesn't work, and needs to be completely changed in order to have a legitimate Hall of Fame again. It's lost a lot of credibility. It needs to regain it.
I do agree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dean.
I agree. And I was going to even add on to Kurt Schilling, listen, I get some may disagree with him, and I understand he could be a nutcase, but you cannot deny the guy's talent. The guy's a Hall of Fame. I'm not gonna. When I mean this, when I say this, I don't mean it this way. Sometimes politics ruins sports, and this is one of those times that I feel like that it ruins sports. You know, I understand Kurt. Like I said, I understand Kurt Schilling could have very crazy views, but you can't knock him for crazy views. And you can't knock him for and say like, oh, just because he has crazy views, he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. The guy's a Hall of Famer. And with Barry Bonds and Clemens, I understand the debate, but I think it's time to get them in the Hall of Fame. Yes, Barry Bonds and the whole debacle with steroids, but as Noah said, with the records, everything, if you're going to let them keep them, the guys have been amazing talent. I think it's time to put them in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you guys. Like Barry Bonds, he's one of the. You can honestly argue he's the GOAT. If just for that exception, like a 7-time MVP, 8-time Gold Glove, all-time home run leader. It's ridiculous how he's a guy like him's not in the Hall of Fame. Same thing with Roger Clemens. So like obviously Schilling. I mean, I think I agree with what he's saying. Like they don't see his value on the field, and it's so if he wants to take himself off, I understand it. And like Noah said, it's becoming less and less like of an honor because it's becoming more and more of a joke every year. But so how do you think they should, what should they do to fix this? What do you guys think?
I just want to say quickly, I kind of disagree with you guys. I think that there are some edits they could make to the voting process, who can vote, if you have to vote for people or whatever. But I don't think it's a problem that nobody got voted in. This year, yes, I disagree. I do believe that Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame, and same with Roger Clemens. They both, regardless of like steroid use, they should be in the Hall of Fame. They're both fantastic players, even before they started doing steroids, you know? And so that part I disagree with, but I can also see how people wouldn't want to vote them in. You can make that argument. So I can't be mad that people aren't going to want to vote in people who have used steroids. I do think it's a good thing that there are years where nobody gets in, because that's just the way things happen. Every player, for the most part, increases their vote total as their 10 years of eligibility moves on. So just because you didn't get in this year doesn't mean you're not a Hall of Fame caliber player. It could just be there are some people that believe that you don't deserve to make it right away. You don't deserve, or you don't even deserve to make it your 9th year. You have to wait until your last year to make it in. I don't see a problem. What?
I just want to argue that that's a good point. I just would argue for 1 second. The only thing I'd say is that Bonds and Clemens barely raised their vote total, so they're not getting in on the 10th ballot. And this is the thing about steroids, as opposed to just a regular player who, let's say it's his 9th year, like Larry Walker last year, he had a huge jump because people gave him that 10th year sympathy. If you are a steroid voter, you vote Barry Bonds and Clemens in. If you're not, you don't. So you don't really get any jump there. You have to convince someone that you are worthy of being a Hall of Famer as a steroid guy. It's not about talent. It's not about sympathy. It's just about morally, do you vote for steroid players or not? So they basically reached their peak. Unless they're convincing like 100 people or whatever that number would be, they're not getting in. So the only way now is for them to hit the Veterans Committee in a number of years, possibly get a chance then, but they're not getting in next year. And it's likely that with Schilling off the ballot, and I don't think he'll get in next year either, even if he stayed on the ballot, because I think a lot of those
gets in next year.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting in, but I don't think anybody's getting in next year either. You're absolutely right. Maybe David Ortiz, he's the only guy.
I don't see Ortiz being a first ballot kind of guy, though. It's being a DH. I mean, it took forever to get. Oh my God, what was his name?
Edgar Martinez hit 10th year.
Yeah. So I just think that it's part of the honor. It makes it almost more of an honor to make the Hall of Fame when there are years where nobody makes it in. It's such an elite group. I don't know the numbers comparing baseball to football to basketball to hockey in the Hall of Fame, but I know there's just a couple hundred people in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
High standard.
But it's like crazy. I was telling this to Noah the other day. Like I was like looking at it, like I'm like obviously like I'm a fan. Like Keith Hernandez, I find it like a guy like him. I find it ridiculous like how he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's an 11-time Gold Glove, an MVP. He hit 300, near 300. It's crazy. Just because he wasn't like a home run hitter, he didn't hit 30 home runs a season. That's the only reason why he's not in. Like I think they should have like stuff like that. Like
I do agree. There should be some
other value. They need to value other aspects of the game.
There should be some changes. They should change the way that they look at things and change the way that the voting goes. And then in terms of Schilling, I've been kind of going back and forth on that whole issue the whole time because, yeah, of course, separate the player from what his opinions are. He's a fantastic player. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player. But on the other hand, you have to draw the line somewhere, right? There has to be a point where somebody should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame. And what's that line going to be?
Well, they already drew it at Pete Rose, and he deserves to be in. So if that's the case, then clearly Schilling shouldn't, but Pete Rose should also. That's how I view it.
Exactly. So Pete Rose cheated, but he didn't actually improve his game out of cheating. It's a similar kind of thing. Off the field, he had a bunch of problems, and he's not allowed in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best players to ever play. Curt Schilling, I think, is a little bit different from Pete Rose in that his thing is not as morally questionable as much as it is dangerous and wrong. I don't believe that Curt Schilling deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as a person. As a player, he does. And that's kind of what
you wouldn't vote for him.
I would have voted for him before most of the events of this year, but for me, that line is being, really the coup attempt on the Capitol. That's a good line to draw. If you believe that we should forcibly overthrow the government, if you believe that we should break and enter into the Capitol building, I don't think you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And so that's just how I feel on that. It is a very divisive issue, and I can see both sides.
Yeah. So
I just think that the voting process and the way that we allow people to be voters, that completely needs to be changed. Because, just think about some of the ages of these guys voting, and they don't follow the modern game. They don't know the modern sabermetrics. They don't follow it that way. So we follow it a different way than they do because we look at all those modern stats. We understand how that all works. We have a lot of people that are voting for this stuff, and they just don't get it. So they don't see the value outside of the home run stat, the RBI stat, the batting average stat. There are other things that we look at. Defensive runs saved, if you're playing the outfield or something. We look at OPS, we look at on base percentage, we look at all these different sabermetric stats. And WAR is another one. They don't really do that to the same extent. And so it makes it hard because people are evaluating you on different numbers, and it's hard to give someone a perfect case. It's just it's not set in stone what you're looking at. So that's my problem with it. And then of course we need to figure out whether these steroid guys are going to be in or not. To me, Bud Selig's in. He allowed this whole problem to get even bigger and bigger over the years. So if he's in, the players got to be in. It's a mess.
Yeah, you make an interesting point because also, I'm sure, obviously there's probably players, and I'm sure there definitely is. There's players that are already in the Hall of Fame that I'm sure some of them have cheated and they still got to go in. So I think it's unfair in that kind of sense.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys one quick question before we move on. This is just like a question for if you were to become a Hall of Fame voter in 10 years. So if you're not going to vote in a Barry Bonds or a Clemens, would you vote for Justin Verlander? And Jose Altuve. Let me throw them both at you.
I would definitely vote Verlander.
Yeah.
Verlander was the pitcher. Obviously, he was playing, he wasn't cheating. Obviously, he didn't do anything really to stop it. There's a slight argument for that, but I think I would vote him in. So that's my opinion on him. Altuve is kind of tough.
Altuve, I don't think, even as a player, even taking out the whole cheating thing, Altuve doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
Ready?
But here's the thing, especially take the Pete Rose thing as another example. Pete Rose has been banned from the Hall of Fame. He's not allowed to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, even though he's the all-time hits leader. And that was for betting on baseball games, which did not give him a competitive advantage.
No.
It did not make him hit the ball better. It did not make the Reds win more games. It did not whatever. So that, yes, morally questionable. But if you're going to allow then players like Altuve to get into the Hall of Fame, you have to let Rose into the Hall of Fame, because what Altuve did was he cheated. People have said that he is cheated. He was one of the players cheating. And that cheating gave them a World Series win.
How about Mookie Betts then?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. What about
Aidan, how about Mookie Betts?
Red Sox fan? How's your opinion on that?
That is a different question because the Red Sox, and yes, I know I'm biased as a Red Sox fan, but the Red Sox sign stealing scandal was never as proven, at least, to be as in depth as the as the Astros one. And at least based off of the punishments from the MLB didn't see it as severe. They also did not use, trash cans during games to tip off pitchers. To tip off batters. That was a very different style of cheating that the Red Sox, I will still say, may or may not have done. So, and again, Mookie Betts is as of now, if he retired now, not a Hall of Famer, but in a couple of years, he's going to be.
Yeah.
He's on track to be. And Altuve, I think, is the same way. As a player right now, I wouldn't vote him in.
But in 12 years, let's say, and the guy keeps on his trajectory and he hits 2,500 hits or 3,000 hits.
I would not vote for him unless Pete Rose was allowed in.
Okay, got
it. The only way I could consider doing it is if you let Pete Rose in.
Yeah, I love the Hall of Fame stuff, so I find these questions to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's like certain situations, like ours, like what you said, like he should definitely, he didn't give himself, didn't make him play better. Like I'm going to compare to a more recent case, like Robbie Cano. I think there's no chance. Like you would argue before he had a slight chance after the first time he cheated, but now there's definitely no chance after last year and him being caught. So that's what guys like Robbie Cano, I would never let into the Hall of Fame. Like we're at the game where it clearly shows it's getting better. I don't know, like Barry Bonds also, throughout his entire career, he was great. It's not like the steroids. It's not like he wasn't already great before he was on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Barry Bonds is a great example. He was a Hall of Fame caliber player before he started taking steroids.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the steroids are what pushed him over the hump to be one of the best players of all time. But he still probably would have made the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to add?
Nope.
All right. So we're just going to wrap this up now. We're going to talk some winners and losers. Noah and Dean, you are the winners this week. So I will let one of you take it away.
Ooh, I'm a winner.
Oh,
I guess I got to go with LeBron.
You want?
I'm going to have to go with LeBron as my winner. 46 points the other night in Cleveland, going home. 46 points. And then a couple nights before that, the 34 points in Milwaukee to beat the Bucks in a primetime game. Hit the game-clinching shot over Brook Lopez. I know I'm a little biased on LeBron, but he had a terrific week. He has vaulted himself right back into the MVP conversation. Outscored the Cavaliers the other night by himself in the fourth quarter, 21-19. So he's my winner, having an unbelievable 18th year. The fact that he's played every game, the fact that he's averaging 25, and the Lakers have the best record in the league, it's unbelievable what he's doing.
Yeah. I guess I'll go for it. My loser, I'm gonna say baseball. We lost an absolute legend over this past week in Hank Aaron. My thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. Hank Aaron, many could argue, was the true home run king because he didn't cheat he didn't take steroids like Barry Bonds, but Hank Aaron, absolutely unbelievable player, 25-time All-Star, just crazy. And my thoughts and prayers with him.
In 23 seasons?
26, something like that.
No, he played under 25 seasons.
Here's what it was. I think he played 23 seasons, but at one point in the 50s, they played multiple All-Star games.
They did 2 All-Star games a year in the late 50s, early 60s.
I didn't know that.
It's I looked at that for a couple minutes before looking it up. It stumped me.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. All right, Aidan, you want to go?
Yeah, my loser, Jack and Noah, I feel like you guys will appreciate this, might be the Mets, depending on how this whole GameStop Steve Cohen situation wraps up.
That's not going to matter.
I don't really understand the stock market all too much, but I've been laughing all day. Just for those of you who don't know, basically a subreddit decided to buy a lot of stock in GameStop, which is not a good thing because when that happens randomly, it creates a bubble. And when the bubble pops, the stock plummets in value. And so Steve Cohen has pledged, what was it, like $2 billion to a hedge fund that is going to get absolutely destroyed by this whole GameStop thing. And so he has had to actually go out onto Twitter and say, this is not going to affect the Mets, or this is not going to affect how much we spend on the Mets, which I think is really funny that even had to happen. But I'm still not even convinced. You never know.
If you were going to say bad news with the Mets, I would mention the general manager first, but
that too.
Or Brad Hand too.
And yeah, that too. Yeah, it was not a good day for Noah and myself on the day of the conference championship games. Tom Brady's going back to another Super Bowl. The Mets lost on Brad Hand, and the Knicks got blown out. It was a very rough day. All right, Dean, we'll wrap it up with you.
All right, it's pretty clear. My winner is the man who knocked down, for what some say, the greatest of all time, even though he's not, Dustin Poirier, for beating Conor McGregor. You know, he had an amazing performance that fight. He just chopped down Conor with leg kicks. I mean, listen, I did not see a knockout coming at all whatsoever. Dustin Poirier proving that he's a championship quality fighter, and I'm really happy to see him bounce back, especially 7 years later after losing to Conor McGregor the first time.
So, Dean, is Khabib going to end up fighting one of these guys? Come back for like the 10th time like all these other fighters do?
They're all like Brett Favre.
They're all like Brett Favre.
I don't know. I mean, Dana White said the last time he spoke with Khabib said these guys are not on my level, and I don't know if I'm going to return back to the sport. So they might do a vacant belt, and I really hope that Poirier wins. He really deserves it. The guy's worked his $A sign off. I'll keep it PG. The guy's worked hard. He deserves it, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's about all we got. This has been another edition of Agree to Disagree. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Check us out on Spotify. With Dean Gutic, Noah Schwartz, and Aidan Shard, I'm Jack Casello. We'll see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.